Just yesterday, I talked about what I believe to be some of the most underrated weapons from each weapon class, and in this video, we're going to the other side of the spectrum and talking about what I believe to be the most overrated weapons from each weapon class. This video will 100% be more controversial, and these are the weapons that, I believe just get too much love from the community, right? And in the grand scheme of things, aren't as good as many people remember them to be. Remember, I'm not saying that these are bad weapons, but I believe they're simply overrated as compared to some other members of their classes. If you do go on to enjoy this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. We're pushing for 100,000 subscribers. Be sure to use code TYFRYZ in the Fortnite item shop when you get the chance, and let's get right into this video. You're in for a good one. All right, we are beginning with the assault rifle class, and what I believe to be my most controversial take on this video, I'm going with the SCAR. Remember what I said in the intro of this video, right? I'm not saying these weapons are bad, and I'm definitely not saying the SCAR is a bad weapon, but I feel like I see too many people still considering the SCAR like a top 5 Fortnite assault rifle ever, and that is simply just not the case, right? I mean, first of all, this weapon has 2 mythic versions that are insane. This spot is mainly going to talk about the purple and legendary versions, which are just kind of hurt by their bloom. The SCAR was the best weapon for years and years, mainly because we didn't have any really good scoped assault rifles, but that changed, right? The MK7 and its mythic version, the Hollow Twister and its mythic version, the Striker Burst assault rifle from Chapter 5 and Chapter 6, Nisha's Striker AR, right? Even maybe the Machinist Combat AR. These are all weapons that I believe outduel the SCAR, and for some reason, people still consider the SCAR to be like a top tier assault rifle, and like I said, it's still like an A tier weapon, but it's not S tier anymore, and it's really just because of the bloom, right? Like, why would you use a weapon that has as much bloom as the SCAR does when you could use something with a scope and eliminate all bloom entirely? And no, I'm not talking about just your regular scoped AR, like actual weapons that have scopes and are actually really good. I don't know if it's nostalgia or something, but I do seriously believe the SCAR is an overrated Fortnite weapon, and I wouldn't be surprised if some of you guys said it even fell outside your top 10 for the best assault rifles of all time. Besides the mythic version, obviously, those things are insane. All right, moving off the ARs and into the shotguns, I've got actually 2 pictures. So firstly, we're going to talk about the lever action shotgun. I am seeing these takes on Twitter of people absolutely loving the lever action shotgun. Just, please bring back the lever action. It's one of the best shotguns we've ever seen. That is not the case. This thing sucks. Unless you're Nick A30, right, who absolutely loves this weapon, like, I just don't know why people seem to like the lever action shotgun, because I think it's genuinely one of the worst shotguns we've ever gotten. It feels so incredibly inconsistent, and it's just a worse version of the tac shotgun. I will stand by that. I do not like this weapon whatsoever, and for some reason, there are so many people who seem to think that this is like a great shotgun. It's not. But for the other shotgun I want to talk about, how about the heavy shotgun, right? Because I honestly couldn't decide which one I wanted to put on this video today, so I'm just including both. It's gotta be because this weapon launched in the early seasons of Fortnite when, shotguns just barely existed. Like, you only had the pump, tac, and heavy, and that was it. But people still think the heavy shotgun is like a replacement for the pump, or it's like equivalent to the pump. That is nowhere near the case. This is a bottom feeder shotgun. 77 damage to the body in the legendary version is just nowhere near enough for a pump shotgun, right? I don't care that it has decent range. You don't use shotguns at range, you use them at close range. And look, I've never been a fan from the start with the heavy shotgun. I feel like this thing has just aged so poorly over time with how many better shotguns we've gotten than this thing. I mean, this weapon just keeps falling slowly down the totem pole of shotguns. Moving on to the SMG class, I'm going with the compact SMG, or as a lot of you guys know it as the P90. Obviously, I am talking about, the current state of this weapon if it were to come back in Chapter 6, Season 3. Yeah, that version of the P90 that we would get. I am definitely not referring to, the OG Season 5 version of the P90, because that thing was an absolute machine, just shredding through builds, shredding through players, but it's been nerfed over and over again since then. Just listen to the nerfs, right? This thing launched doing 23 and 24 damage with a fire rate of 11. Now it's only got a fire rate of 10, and that damage goes down 3 points. Also, the magazine size was decreased from 50 to 40, and at the end of the day, this thing cannot be used at range, right? You'll literally be hitting for 8 and 9 damage, and at super close range, I feel like it just gets out DPS'd, honestly. It's just an SMG that, again, over time, I feel like we've gotten weapons that just do what this weapon was meant to do, but better. I mean, look at the Primal SMG. I think the Primal SMG is better than the compact. It's good for spraying, and honestly, I think think people just remember it for what it used to be and not what it's like anymore. And that won't be the last time in this video you hear me say those words. Moving on to another hot take for this video in the pistol category, I'm going with the hand cannon or the deagle. So I've got a couple things to say about the deagle, right? Think all the way back to chapter 1 when this thing was introduced, right? What was its purpose in the game? It was a heavy ammo, heavy hitting, 150 damage to the head pistol with a very slow fire rate that was just going to be, you know, kind of like a high risk, high reward pistol. And it fit that mold really, really well. But over time, we have seen pistols come into the game that just do that exact same thing, but better. And in my opinion, have made this weapon not as good as it used to be. One of those weapons is the Mammoth pistol, right? The Mammoth pistol does everything that the deagle does, but better in every single way besides, I guess, the fire rate. I mean, 180 in the head, right? Basically 100 damage to the body, uses heavy bullets, slow fire rate, heavy hitting, right? It's literally everything the deagle was originally set out to be, but better. And now you've got pistols that are coming out and being fully automatic. I mean, I think you can ask a lot of players, especially those newer players who don't have, you know, the nostalgia kind of blinding them from chapter 1 when the deagle was a really fun kind of nostalgic weapon to use, right? It's a classic FPS weapon. Everyone loves the deagle. And a lot of those players would probably tell you, yeah, I would rather take the sidearm pistol. I'd rather take the shadow tracker. I would rather take the tactical pistol. And I would agree on every single one of those takes. I would rather take the Mammoth pistol, of course. Obviously, this thing used to be insane when it could, you know, one-shot walls. That was broken. But in its current state, and I think you saw it come back right in chapter 5 with the conductor hand cannon, a lot of players just kind of left it by the wayside. And for some reason, every time I make a pistol ranking video and I put the deagle in kind of that mid category where I think it belongs, everyone's like, dude, what, the deagle's way too low. It should be higher on the list. But now you guys know these are my thoughts on the deagle. And honestly, I don't think it's that crazy what I'm saying. Moving on to the Marksman rifles, and I'm going with the Excalibur rifle. I think this weapon is so overrated just because of how novel and cool the actual weapon is itself. If this was any other weapon, right? Imagine this was, you know, a regular bullet gun that had the exact same stats, function the exact same way, but just didn't shoot an explosive sword. Instead, it shot an explosive bullet. People would be like, oh, this thing sucks, right? But the fact that it shoots explosive swords makes everybody think, oh, I love this weapon. I miss the Excalibur rifle. Please bring it back. And they did in the 14 Days of Summer event. And I don't know about you guys, but every time someone was using the Excalibur rifle against me, they couldn't do any damage. It is incredibly difficult to use, and it's not rewarding enough for hitting a shot. Like, I genuinely don't think you are doing enough damage. And the only advantage I think it has going for it is the fact that it uses shotgun shells, right? So you're really never going to have to worry about ammo, and you can kind of put on some pressure and spam people with those explosive swords. And at the end of the day, I think a lot of people just think that this is a good weapon because it is cool, not because it is actually a practically good weapon to use. I mean, there are plenty of other DMRs that are better than this, in my opinion. Another hot take for this video, well, not a hot take in my opinion, but I'm going with the heavy sniper rifle for the sniper category. Anybody who is a longtime viewer of this channel knows the heavy sniper is one of my favorite Fortnite weapons of all time. At one point, it was my favorite Fortnite weapon. That's because it was your heavy, hard-hitting sniper rifle, 157 damage, 350 to the head, right? Just one-shotting literally any build on the entire Fortnite map. But guys, that's not the case anymore. Now, the heavy sniper only does 150 damage to builds. That means it cannot even one-shot a brick wall. It only does 126 damage. That is over a 20 damage nerf. It has a 4-second reload time, and of course, you've got sniper glint just like the rest of the snipers do. So the heavy sniper is nowhere near as good as it used to be, and you could pick up a legendary bolt action and do 121 damage with 3 seconds of a quicker reload speed. It's like, why would you not do that? Or if you want something that's going to do a ton of damage, just use the heavy impact rifle. This weapon used to have a spot in the game, but in its current state, I just don't see why you would take this thing over a lot of other snipers in the game. It sounds cool, but let's be honest, there are so many ones that are better out there. I mean, I didn't even mention the Reaper sniper rifle, but yeah, I hope you guys can kind of see where I'm coming from here. Moving on to the bow category, and yeah, honestly, I'm going to keep this one pretty quick because I think the bows, like I said in the underrated weapon video, are all pretty properly rated, but I think one that I think you could potentially consider overrated is the unstable bow. Again, I know I'm kind of reaching here because I really just don't think there are any bows that are truly overrated. I think everyone knows what you're going to get when you're using a bow, but the thing with the unstable bow is, well, you actually don't know what you're going to get because it rotates through multiple different bows, right? You've got the stink bow, the shockwave bow, the regular bow, and then you've got the explosive bow, and the flame bow, and I would rather use just the regular shockwave bow than any of those other bows. So it's like, you know, the stink bow is painfully mid, and so is the, you know, explosive bow and the flame bow. So it's like, if all those other weapons are mid and the shockwave bow is clearly the best, then why would you even bother trying to go out of your way to get the unstable bow when you know the shockwave is going to be the best out of all of them? I don't know. This is kind of a gimmicky weapon, and I had a tough time picking one for the bows, but yeah, I'm just going to go with the unstable bow here. For the launcher category, boy, do I have a juicy one. I'm going with the guided missile. Another weapon that was so good back in the day, but in its current state is just not good. Remember, I am talking about builds mode here, right? The guided missile in zero build will be a completely different demon, and you can totally disregard I even said the guided missile on this list if you're a zero build player. But in builds mode, what is the use for this weapon? Anytime anyone sees the bright red guided missile flashing on their screen, or they can hear the missile from 50 meters away, or they can just look up and the player's literal like avatar appears over the guided missile, and you can literally look on the minimap and see the guided missile flying. It's like, how is anyone supposed to do any damage with the guided missile? There's so much going against you when you're using this weapon. Not to mention, all it takes to counter it is just 4 walls and a ceiling, and there it is, which anyone can do nowadays, which back then was maybe a little bit more of a challenge to do. Not to mention, you are limited on rockets and you have to leave your body. So yeah, I think there's a ton going against you when you use the guided missile, and in almost any other situation, I would say just you know, take the regular RPG. It's going to be better for you, and I don't think this is going to be a hot take on this video. I just think it's overrated because so many people love the, you know, fact that you can control your own rocket and think it's such a cool weapon, but at the end of the day, it's just not good. It's not practical. In my final spot for this list, I've got a juicy one for you. I know I've already pissed off so many people watching this video. I'm going with the Chains of Hades for the melee category. So firstly, I don't think it's, you know, entirely this weapon's fault that I think it's overrated. It was in Chapter 5, Season 2, which you gotta remember is a very difficult season to be a melee weapon in, with just a ton of crazy good mobility all around the map. If you took this weapon and put it in, you know, maybe a more grounded season, I think you would see, you know, different results with the Chains of Hades. But also, you've got to remember that the melee weapons we are seeing nowadays are not just melee weapons like the Chains of Hades is. They also have really, really good mobility tied to them, right? I mean, think about the Shockwave Hammer, think about the TMNT Mythics, think about the Kneecapper, think about the Typhoon Blade, think about the Black Panther Claws, I mean, ODM gear, right? These are all melee items that also have really, really good mobility tied to them. And when you remember that the Chains of Hades, while yes, can be really, really good inside of someone's box or even to bring someone closer to you, the fact that you don't get any mobility bonus whatsoever when using this item just to me makes it plummet down the list of melee items. And to me, like, all the weapons that I just named, I would rather have than the Chains of Hades, right? Because you get both abilities, still great melee, but also great mobility. I didn't even mention the Grapple Blade or the Nitro Fist or the Kinetic Blade, right? Like, you guys get the point by now. I don't think the Chains of Hades stand a chance against really any of those weapons that I just named. Oh boy. All right. I hope you guys went on to enjoy that video. I'm sure the comment section of this video will be incredibly civil and there will be no bad discussions going on down there, right? Keep it civil, please. If you guys did go on to enjoy this video, please consider leaving it a like and subscribing. We are on the way to 100,000 subscribers and I'd love to have you on this team with me. With that all being said, guys, I'll catch you in the next one. As always, peace.